Administration. And we are delighted to have so many of you join us for our second in our weekly Wednesday update series, where we hope to bring you information and things of interest to you about what's going on in the community at large. And today we have a special treat where 6 of our Jewish community professionals, executive directors of certain agencies, will be sharing some of their challenges during this pandemic, as well as the opportunities that might bring to them in the future. So I'm going to introduce each panelist before they speak. On the bottom of this, first thing is please make sure your video is off if you're not one of the panelists. And at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a button that says Q&A. If you have any questions during the presentation, please just type them in there and we will get to them after everybody makes their presentation. So that's how we're going to operate. So I'm happy. In addition, I just wanted to let you know that this will be recorded so you can share it with others afterwards. And we'll also let the community know that the recording is available. So first, I'd like to welcome and introduce Michelle Copeland, the longtime executive director of B'nai B'rith Camp, to talk a little about what's going on with the camp season.
Thank you so much, Mark. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because what good would it be if we didn't get to see some cute pictures of children? So give me one moment. There we go. Okay. So everyone can see my screen. Give me a thumbs up if you can, or got it. Okay, great. Wonderful. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for having us. And this is such a wonderful opportunity to share with the community everything that we are doing right now. So at camp during the summer, Kim Schneiderman, bless her heart, is so wonderful. She leads many of our Shabbat services, and she teaches the kids a song and says, it's called Ayeka. And so she goes, Ayeka. And then the kids go, Hineni, hey nini, hineni. And she goes, Ayeka, hineni, hineni, hineni. Ayeka means, where are you? And hineni is, I am here. And at camp, that's how it feels. Like we're here for each other. And here within this time where we're sheltering in place, BB Camp is here for our community. And what I have found is that our national and our local partners have also been here for BB Camp. So our national partners have been amazing. The Foundation for Jewish Camp, the Harold Grinspoon Foundation, the Jewish Federation of Greater Portland, the Jewish Federation of North America, and the Jewish Community Centers Association all have gathered a number of professionals across the United States together to do a variety of conversations and learning about best practices throughout the last 7 weeks. And I have to tell you that I have been on more Zoom calls, and I'm sure many of you have as well, than ever before. Along with our national and local partners, we have quite a few health and safety partners along with the ride with us. Over the course of the last 7 weeks, I have sat on, like I said, numerous calls, but quite frankly, many of them have been at least weekly, and for many tri-weekly calls with the American Camp Association, the Association for Camp Nurses, the Centers for Disease Control, and the Oregon Health Authority. And what I have learned is that, quite frankly, that we can't wait to have you at camp this summer. And the things that we're learning about in detail is that, I apologize, I want to go back for 1 second before I share this piece with you. But what I have really learned is that this is a time where the state versus national and the independent versus movement is quite different. So what I have seen is that for those states that have camps across the country that are in the East Coast going through these horrible situations, their lens is different than ours is here in Oregon. And those that have movements, those that are part of the movements, are much different than us as an independent camp. So many of you know that BB Quick Camp is an independent camp, owned and operated by us, not by a movement. And that has allowed us to make our own decisions moving forward. And so here we are, Summer Camps 2020. We can't wait to see you. So here's what we're waiting for right now. The American Camp Association and the Centers for Disease Control are working right now on guidelines and protocols for camps to be able to open this summer and open safely. We don't know what that's going to look like quite yet. What we know is that the medical, that we're thinking very deeply and in detail about the medical and wellness center procedures and protocols. We're thinking a lot about our international staffing and our domestic staffing. As many of you know, we bring staff in from across the world, many from Israel and from England and all over. And so we're waiting to see what will happen with those staff. Will they be able to come into our country or not? And unfortunately, or fortunately, because there are so many young adults that are stuck at home, this will allow us to hopefully be able to reach out to those young adults to be able to fill the spots that the international staff may have been filling during the summer. We're also thinking about how we're going to work with visitors on camp. What are we going to do about our overnight and day trips? As some of you may have heard that we had this amazing donation this year of wilderness land. And so our overnight and day trips may end up going just to this new piece of land, this new property. We may not be doing day trips and overnights the way we've done them in the past. We're certainly thinking about innovative programming and our transportation and staff training. But we don't know yet. And that's the hardest part, is just being patient and waiting to see what's next. Anyway. Oh, there's my state versus national. I have to show, I got to show these cute pictures of all these cutie kids doing all kinds of things. You can see in these pictures, there's kids that we do quite a few things at camp. We have overnight. We have a heated swimming pool. We do wakeboarding and surfing and wilderness camping and sports and arts and you name it, we're doing it. So I always have to show good pictures of kiddos. In addition to all of that, what's happening right now at camp is that we are almost finished with the construction of our north side cabins. These pictures are actually from last week. If you can believe it, we are just about to finish up these 3 brand new cabins. All of them are double-decker cabins, which will then complete this the capital campaign for the cabins, which are now all of the south side cabins, and now all the north side cabins will all be new and beautiful and all that good stuff. It's going to be great. And then next year, hopefully, we're working on our gym, and then the campus will be complete. The other thing I want to share with you is over the past, gosh, can you believe it? Since March 18th, my team has created amazing virtual programming for our kids. We have engaged hundreds of children in actually in about 60 different programs. We started with our spring break vacation day programs and camp Minecraft programs. We did then went into chocolate seders. We did 16 camper reunions. We did 2 new camper hangouts. We've done 5 summer staff gatherings. And now coming up soon, we're going to be doing Israeli dancing on this Thursday and our second round of camper reunions. In addition to these amazing virtual programs, we have done a number of family and community events. In fact, we've done 10 of those and have really engaged hundreds of people. Some of you may have participated in our Shabbat Walk and Friendship Circles. We've had 6 of those events, which actually has now engaged over 450 people. It's been amazing. We've done our Havdalah and Campfire concert, which was such a delight. We had 5 decades of song leaders, 250 people tuned in that evening, and an additional 567 people tuned in later on our Facebook page to that concert. Our Central Oregon Coast Jewish Community Seder had 20 participants on it. We also participated, we've done several update meetings. We did 2 for our donors and 2 for our families and an information session for our board, all on Zoom. And then coming up will be a bunch of more, we're going to be doing several more virtual programs for reunions, for alumni and other adults and more engagement for our community, which will be just as fabulous. If you'd like to join us for our virtual BB Camp programs, please do so. Again, like I shared, our Israeli Dance Party is April 30th. We've got our camper reunions and our Shabbat Walk and Friendship Circle, which is weekly. Our next one is this Friday at 4 o'clock. So please join us. And I think that's all it. That's it.
Great.
Thank you
Michelle,
so very much. Yes.
Thank you, Michelle. Really
Yes.
appreciate it. Next, I want to invite David Block, who is our Executive Director of Jewish Family and Child Service, who literally started right before the pandemic began. So David, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Mark. And yes, I did begin my new position here on February 17th. So I had approximately 4 weeks of being able to be out and about the community, beginning to get to know some of our key partners prior to the pandemic striking and having us now in our current situation. We have been providing, I would say, a lifeline to a lot of folks that are going through some very difficult times as a result of the pandemic. We've been very fortunate in having a partnership with the Jewish Federation and getting a great deal of financial support and professional support as well. Thank you, Mark, and your team. As we, and support as well from the Oregon Jewish Community Foundation, which allowed us to immediately gear up a new emergency assistance program. And the emergency assistance has been in high demand from folks who have lost their jobs and are coming to us now for rental assistance, utility assistance, asking for some medical bills to be paid. We're providing food certificates as well, gift cards for various stores around the community. We're also providing a good deal of emotional support as part of that program. Many folks call us and unfortunately they feel a great deal of shame and embarrassment about having to reach out to us for this kind of assistance. And we have an incredible, compassionate person that's providing this service, Tavia Berrigan. And she has a wonderful way of helping folks understand that there's no reason to feel shame when you're going through a difficult period like this. We are here to help, and we have the means by which to do that now. And in that way, we are here fully engaged and available for these folks. Our counseling department also is seeing an uptick in folks struggling significantly with issues of anxiety, depression, despair around isolation. And again, I see us as serving an emotional lifeline of support to these folks. We are a resource they can come to. They can share some of their most intimate issues, the most intimate thoughts with us, and have a safe place where they can get the support they need to go through what is a very challenging time. For folks that had previous issues, struggling with mental health related issues, it seems like they're being exacerbated considerably as a result of this pandemic. And our counseling staff is fully aware of that. They're engaged in that and providing support. They're also providing a brand new support group to the community as well, where community members can call in. These groups are going on once a week. And it's a place just to talk about, God, what is it like to be living through this particular circumstance that we call COVID-19 pandemic? This is obviously a unique experience for all of us, and we're all reacting in different ways. And it's wonderful to have a community of fellow travelers through this journey to just share that with. We are remaining fully engaged with our Holocaust survivors. We've had to change some of our service delivery with them as well. While many still receive personal care, which includes, everything from bathing to help with toileting, etc. We've pulled back our homemakers for the most part, where they're no longer going into the homes and providing, say, cleaning service or cooking. But now we are contracted with a service to provide hot meals to be delivered to our Holocaust survivors. So we're just finding alternative ways to maintain a high level of service. We have case managers that are fully engaged with our Holocaust survivors frequently throughout the week to ensure that they have contact with the folks that they know well, to gain a measure of emotional support, in addition to those that have family members as well. So it's a challenging time, as you all well know, but we are fully engaged in providing the emotional support, the material support that is required from the clients that are coming to see us. And So thank you for this time.
David, thank you, and thank your team for the work that they're doing. Next, we'd like to invite Kimberly Fuson, who is the Executive Director of Cedars-Sinai Park. And Kim, you're up.
Well, first of all, I want to say hi, everyone, and how is everyone else doing? Everybody good? Just you can nod, wave, whatever, it's all good. Okay, I'd also like to screen share if possible. And, okay, great. And just a moment here. I want to go into my file really quickly and give you just a little bit of a preview of what's been happening at Cedars-Sinai Park. We, like Michelle shared, have lots and lots of different groups that we've been working with to make sure that healthcare and assisted living, nursing homes, our HUD housing, our home care is at the top of their game. And the Association of Jewish Aging Services, Jewish Federations of North America have been instrumental in helping us get PPE. So I'm going to show you this first. This is the excitement of our staff with receiving the first 4,000 of 6,000 KN95 masks received. Second 2,000, group of 2,000 are on their way, and we were just thrilled to have that. Our staff are feeling very safe having the top of the line mask to wear on an everyday basis. As you know, every day is a changing day for healthcare. You see it in the news. So I'm going to throw out a few acronyms, and I'll share them with you. That we are bound by not only the Center for Medicare and Medicaid, the Centers for Disease Control, the Department of Human Services, and the Oregon Health Authority, and we are working through the myriad of regulatory changes that happen sometimes on an every 2-hour basis. The staff morale continues to be very high. We have very few staff members that are home by choice. We are being extremely careful in how we are managing testing of our residents and staff. I'm very proud to share that the only case of COVID to date has been a staff member who was not on staff when her symptoms began. That doesn't mean we're not testing and that we've not sent several people out for testing, but everyone else has come back negative so far, and we're very grateful for that. We're also extremely grateful to our entire Portland and Jewish communities. The Chinese American Society were the first group that donated masks to us, and we were so grateful for their share. I'm going to share a few more photos with you guys, and then I'm going to stop and ask if you have questions of me. So briefly, we'll go through this. This is an example of our residents being so grateful for the room service that they're getting. My dear Sonia posted this on her door back in early March. The love abounds at Cedars-Sinai Park. I'm going to continue with a photo of our Seder. And this is a resident in the nursing home. We had special commemorative Seder plates, and the way that we could connect this person to her family was through an iPhone, and it's a one-on-one with staff, again, just to make sure that everyone gets connected as often as possible. Of course, virtual bingo with Barbie. You can't not have that. So she's bingoing from home. For the first time that I can remember at Cedars-Sinai Park, we actually had homemade gefilte fish, not out of a jar. And then, of course, a few of our joyriders, our residents, really enjoying last week's parade, and a picture of our staff at the parade from Cedars-Sinai Park. And then even our affordable housing folks, they joined in the fun. Those are our leaders from downtown at affordable housing. And some of our beloved board members. And I do want to share also that Cedars-Sinai Park has been gifted over 1,500 cloth masks so that all of our residents, every single one, will have at least 2. And I'm expecting my final deliveries this week. And so we're just truly grateful for everyone's support.
Kim, thank you, and I apologize that the
Oh.
pictures at the end were not being shared. So we'll get to them. Don't worry, we'll figure out
Okay.
a way.
So
Okay,
questions for me about healthcare. I'm happy to answer any questions you all have.
right, we're going to do the questions at the end in the Q&A box, so please enter them there. So next, I want to invite Steve Albert, who is the Executive Director of both the Middleman Jewish Community Center and the Portland Jewish Academy. So Steve?
Thank you, Mark, and thank you for this opportunity to provide a brief update on what's happening at the JCC. I want to start by saying that we're tremendously grateful to our members who have really stuck with us since our closure on March 15th. The majority of our members have continued to contribute support as donations in lieu of membership dues. We also are very grateful to other donors in the community who have continued to support us. That's allowed us to maintain our entire workforce since our closure. And as a result of that, we've been able to really do a lot in the area of online programming and providing opportunities to the whole community. As Kim and Michelle said, we have been working closely with a lot of different organizations. I would say that the Jewish Community Center Association of North America has been the one that we've worked with most closely. They've really facilitated a lot of collaboration with other JCCs around North America, and they've also provided a lot of direct resources and advice as we've made this pivot to serving the community virtually. Our focus has really been in providing online programs. Many of those have been live, some are recorded. We've also tried to create a library of online resources. But at this point, we're offering anywhere from 2 to 7 programs each day, Monday through Friday, and usually several programs on the weekends as well. And the programs really range across the spectrum in terms of their focus and their intended audiences. So we have wellness programs, a number of different types of yoga classes, various movement classes, Zumba, Pilates, Krav Maga, karate, and others that really are an effort to meet people's health and wellness goals while they're at home. We've done a number of different family programs. Those are largely being offered through our camp department. And we've done dance parties, arts and crafts classes, animal shows. There was a workshop on making volcanoes. And those have really done a great job of engaging families with young children and our camp families. We have a number of ongoing arts and culture programs, including our Hebrew for Lunch program, book club, author talks, and then we've done a number of holiday programs, such as our Yom HaZikaron program this past Monday evening, which was offered in collaboration with a number of individuals in the local Israeli community. And then we've also done some special events. Last week we had a panel discussion on the impact of the COVID-19 outbreak on the homeless population here in Portland. And we had Marissa Zapata from PSU and Multnomah County Commissioner Sharon Myron join us to talk about that issue. And we're looking at putting together other programs like that as well. All of the programming that we've offered has been open to the community and at no cost. And it's been very popular. We've had as many as 40 or 50 people join us for a lot of these programs and classes. And we feel really good about being able to provide this at this time. We're also trying to use the facility for emergency needs that arise. We've done a number of blood drives with the Red Cross. Our next one is scheduled for May 12th. It's nice to be able to serve the community in that way. We're taking the time during the closure to do a bit of work in the building, obviously a very thorough deep clean of the entire facility, but it's also been a great opportunity for us to finish some projects that are grant-funded projects that hadn't been completed previously. We received a Homeland Security grant to upgrade our surveillance cameras and window security film on our windows, so we've been working on those. We received an Oregon Cultural Trust grant last fall to upgrade the ballroom, and so we're in the process of doing that work. And then we're also trying to do some of our major maintenance projects earlier than we otherwise would. So for example, the gymnasium was scheduled to have the floor refinished this coming summer. We're trying to do that now so that we'll inconvenience our members as little as possible when we reopen. We're really looking forward to reopening. We are monitoring recommendations from the CDC and the Oregon Health Authority and the governor's office. We are trying to be as proactive as we can be. We know that there'll be a lot of guidelines around physical distancing, around sanitation guidelines, areas we're able to use and not able to use and the manner in which we can do that. Summer camp is a big area of focus. As Michelle mentioned, there's a lot that we have yet to learn about exactly what parameters will be put in place. But we're doing as much planning as we possibly can and are thinking about offering a hybrid of virtual and in-person camp programming if that proves to be necessary. And we're just doing our best to stay on top of a very rapidly changing situation. But it's been, I think, a great opportunity for us to look at new ways of serving the community. And I imagine that even when things return back to normal, whatever normal ends up being, I imagine that we will have a much larger virtual presence than we have in the past.
Steve, thank you very much. And thank your team for all the work that they're doing on to keep the community active on a remote basis. So it's really been terrific. So next I'd like to invite Judy Margles, who is the Executive Director of the Oregon Jewish Museum and Center for Holocaust Education. So Judy.
Thank you, Mark, and thanks to all of you who are listening at home. Certainly these have not been easy times for any of us, and I hope that you're all staying healthy. So very briefly, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what's going on at the museum. All staff are working at home, of course. And some of the work that we always do continues. For example, we're writing grants for projects that are going to take place once we reopen. We're answering research requests. It's great to see that the community is still coming to us when they have questions, and we're getting questions from local questions, national, even international scholars, I think, who are working at home are taking the opportunity to keep using us as a resource. And of course, our spring membership renewal campaign, that's in full swing. I want to thank those of you who have responded to that. And some things that we always do, we're just doing differently. The community Yom HaShoah commemoration, we're taking oral histories, all of our public programs, of course, they're all virtual rather than live. We're continuing to make physical checks of the museum at least 4 times a week. We're walking through the collections area and the exhibition galleries. And of course, this is in addition to our security system, which is very much operational. So the museum itself is very safe. And I thought what I'd do is I'll just focus on 4 areas: museum collections, education, communications, the museum shop. Our archivist, Alicia, she's been working on a series of vignettes about objects in the collection. We're going to go live with this sometime in early May, so just next week or the following week. And it's going to give you a chance to have a glimpse into some of the objects in our collection that you might not normally get to see. Our education team has been providing remote learning resources to teachers and students. Each Friday, they're sending out an email to teachers across Oregon and Southwest Washington, and it's filled with resources that teachers can take back to their students. For example, during Passover, the focus was on the way people have celebrated during difficult and unique circumstances, such as seders that were held in wartime ghettos. Last week, they looked at how art has been used as a response to loss, hardship, and oppression. Our educators, they're also offering weekly webinars for teachers, and our teacher advisory committee, this is a group of 12 teachers from across the state that have been meeting for the last year. They're continuing to meet virtually to discuss implementation of the Holocaust and Genocide Education Bill. Our communications team, they're keeping the museum in the public eye. For any of you who follow us on social media, you'll see that we're continuing to respond to news relevant to our mission. And if you watch us in watch for our announcement in early May, we're going to be launching our new website. This is something we've been working on for months. And lastly, our museum shop manager, Gina, she's been working on an online portal, and it's soon going to let you purchase things from our shop from the comfort of your home. So thinking about opening the museum once we are able to do so is certainly challenging. I hear Steve and Michelle, and of course, we're all in the same boat there. But we've instituted a task force that's looking at both the physical and emotional safety of our staff and our visitors. I've been talking to museum colleagues in the city and around the country to make sure that our opening corresponds to best practices everywhere. You know, the nature of our work, the nature of the museum world is we're a social bunch. We thrive on face-to-face interaction with our volunteers, docents, visitors, students, all of you. And when we can do that again, we want to be ready. Meanwhile, I'm just going to end with a shout out of appreciation to my board, my museum staff, who, as they always do, have demonstrated huge capacity to adapt and thrive in unique, and this time, very trying circumstances. So thank you.
Judy, thank you very, very much for that. In Q&A, there actually is a question that I was going to ask, and one of the panelists actually just asked me too, so we'll follow up with that. But now I'd like to call on Merrill Hendon, who is the principal of the Portland Jewish Academy, to talk a little about what's happening at our Jewish Day School.
Thanks, Mark, and thank you to all of you for being here and for all of your support for all of our institutions. I will start off dovetailing on what Judy said. Thank you with much gratitude to our board and our faculty and staff who have really been so supportive of our teachers, of our program, of our building, and we are so grateful. These are very, very unusual and trying times, and we could not be doing this without any of you, so thank you. We are fully online. We have been since March 17th. We had a few days of in-service with our teachers, and then started fully online. All three of our programs, actually, the after-school program, the early childhood program, and the day school program, have some degree of online learning happening. Of course, with the most happening in the day school as is appropriate. But our teachers at all programs are providing education to children. We took a Pesach break, which was much needed, and then came back and had a few more days of in-service, a couple more days of in-service to help the teachers really gear up for what will be the rest of the school year in this online distance learning, and standardize some practices, increase some of the tools that we're using. We are mostly on Zoom. We are using Google Classroom and many other platforms to educate. There is a combination of synchronous and asynchronous learning happening. Our goal is to have students see and spend time with their teachers just about every day, depending on the grade level, with time set aside for work time, and then sort of meeting with teachers. The other part of this, of course, and the equally important part of this is that our families are very much involved in their children's education right now, and we are trying to communicate, whether at an administrative level or at a teacher's level, in as clear and efficient ways as possible. People's inboxes are really, really packed, as we all know, so we're trying to do our best to communicate clearly so that this is not too trying for families, because we know how trying it is for families who are parents are working and children need support, and so our teachers are really trying to keep this as smooth as possible. We are also working with and getting lots of information from the Northwest Association of Independent Schools, our accrediting body, and Prisma, the Jewish Day School Consortium. And those two organizations have been invaluable to us in their support and in sharing information. Steve and I are part of a small group of heads of school who meet, the local heads of school who meet through Northwest Association. There's lots of professional development that we both can partake of, and that our teachers can and other administrators can partake of as well, with lots of important information for everything from budgeting to hiring to social emotional support for children, social emotional support for faculty and staff. We have tried to continue to build and maintain our Jewish life as a school, because that is the core of our mission. It's not easy being a Jewish day school and not being together. You know, having virtual Kabbalat Shabbat, having virtual Yom HaShoah, Yom HaAtzmaut, Yom HaZikaron, all of which are happening, is difficult and yet so important. And so we're working on all of those things, including graduation. We have a very special graduation for those of you who've been, and it's a milestone opportunity, and so we're planning for that. And of course, then we are working on hiring, and we're working on FTEs, and we're working on next year, and there's a lot of unknown. And so we are doing our best to anticipate what our needs will be and work with our teachers and be as transparent as possible with our community. So it's all an interesting ride where we have a love-hate relationship with all this technology. We're thrilled that we can see each other and see our students and have these conversations. And we also know that there's a lot of fatigue around that for all parties involved. So we're going full steam and happy to be so. So thank you all very much for your support.
Meryl, thank you. Thank you all very much for sharing. Feel free to ask questions, whether in the chat or in the Q&A box, but I'll start off, and I'm going to ask certain people certain questions, so I'll just kind of pick around. Let me start with you, Steve, and it's tying to what Michelle said earlier about this issue of the national bodies, the state, the individual organizations. Like, you're the biggest facility per se in the Jewish community. How do you know when to open, and who gives you that green light to do that?
That's a great question, Mark. And it's actually one of the things that the Jewish Community Center Association of North America has done is create cohorts of JCCs by region so that we can share information with each other. So for example, we're part of a West Coast cohort that includes JCCs in California as well as Seattle. And so we're able to share information about best practice based on the research that we've done and the reading that we've done. Obviously, Oregon is likely to have its own very specific guidelines. Governor Brown specifically mentioned gyms and fitness centers in her closure order in March. And so we know that when there is some sort of a phased reopening, that's a class of organizations that will be given some guidance. We expect that the Oregon Health Authority locally and the CDC nationally will have recommendations about everything from cleaning to physical distancing. One of the things that we and other JCCs are looking at is finding alternate spaces for fitness equipment, for example, so that rather than having everything in our fitness center, we might be able to move some equipment into other spaces. For example, the gym, it may be that contact sports aren't allowed for a period of time, but individual exercise is. And so we could repurpose the gym for a period of time as an extension of space for fitness or possibly space for camp. Same thing with hygiene guidelines and disinfection rules. We expect that guidance is going to come from the state. And to the degree that it doesn't, we can reach out to these different organizations and get recommendations from them. There's been some discussion, for example, about monitoring people's temperatures when they come into crowded spaces. We don't know whether community centers will be mandated to do that or recommended to do that. So it's something where we're starting to look into that technology and thinking about how it might be applied, but again, holding off until we know a little bit more.
Great, Steve, thank you. Thank you for that. I'm curious, Kim and David, since in many ways your teams are first responders, talking to clients, whether it's the residents at the Cedars-Sinai Park or whether it's people in the community, David, how are your teams doing through all of this?
David, you go first.
Okay. Yeah. I think they've been doing actually remarkably well. They have, just galvanized their energy and have been able to put an appropriate bracket around their own, personal experience with this and been able to engage themselves as professionals to be present and available for their clients. I'm able to, they speak with each other and they speak with me about, the issues that are coming up for them personally. And so I have a little bit of a window into some of the stress that they're going through. They're certainly going through stress. And there's also, say with our counseling services, there's also a recognition that while providing the service virtually is a positive, it doesn't take the place of being engaged personally in the same room with an individual you're working with, because there's so much that goes on with the human relationship within a counseling room, and the body language that you can see and the energy you can sense as a therapist, and the client as well, sensing the level of presence that their therapist has with them, that some of that's missing, and there's a clear recognition of that, and as a result, there's a frustration with that. But having said that, there's also a clear recognition that having the contact virtually is absolutely critical, and it's providing a measure of support that is needed at this point in time.
So
Kim?
our staff are almost all essential, and those that aren't essential really wish they could be. And I'm holding them out in case we need them, in case there is an outbreak. And what I can share with you is that initially, as I think with many healthcare providers, there was a lot of fear about how do we protect ourselves and how do we protect our residents. But the word that comes to mind is hero. Every single one of our staff. And I check in with folks every single day at both Robeson and Roschnitzer and down at our affordable housing. We have a daily, it's Monday through Friday, a daily leadership stand-up meeting, virtual. And we're checking in about how people feel. We're checking in about all of the logistical pieces. But I do think that nothing is better still than walking around, maintaining distance, but letting people know things are being provided. The PPE was huge for our staff and making them feel like the organization truly cares for them. And our staff, again, are angels, they're heroes, they're coming to work with smiles and just diving deep. And a lot of our staff are single parents, and that's kind of scary for them as well. If you go home, and your child has been outside, that's what happened with our one staff member. It was completely inadvertent, and that's the scary part for us. So how are they doing? Every day is a miracle to me. These people are angels, and we can't do enough for them. And that's what I can
Kim,
share.
thank you. No, Kim, thank you. All right, now I want to turn to Michelle and Merrill. Michelle, you have, I'm going to use the enrollment question the soonest with camp coming up this summer, and who knows about what camp will have. Can you talk a little about enrollment for camp this summer and what you're seeing and experiencing currently? And then Merrill, I don't know if you can kind of, share a little bit about enrollment for next year, what you're hearing, what you're seeing, or what have you. So Michelle?
Thank you, Mark. Interestingly, I had a very interesting conversation with somebody that was outside of our community today, who's working with other camps. And she had said that she's seeing enrollment of other camps, not Jewish camps, other camps of a 50% decrease in enrollment. What we're seeing here at BB Camp is that those families that have registered their camp, for the majority, are sticking with us and being patient to wait to see what those guidelines look like. As you can just well imagine, that this is a fearful time, and some families are a little scared, and so which is understandable and justified, and some are choosing not to participate and continue with the camp sessions. Others are just kind of hanging out. We certainly did see with enrollment this year that starting March, really our enrollments, new enrollments started to halt. So we have not seen as many enrollments as we typically do in a given year. But we're all holding out, and we're hoping that our families hopefully are going to be patient with us, and we'll wait to see what the CDC says.
Okay, good. All right, Merrill?
Our enrollment is, we still have enrollment happening for the coming year. I know that our admission director, Sarah Glass, is on this call, and hopefully she's smiling because she's been very busy. We've had lots of interest come in since leaving in March. We've had lots of interest. We've had a number of applicants. We had our first potential student meet and greet last night with an individual student who is going to be coming into middle school, or hopefully coming into middle school, and we were able to bring in a couple of students and a couple of teachers and a couple of administrators to answer his questions and orient him. And Sarah's working on how to sort of tour a family when they can't actually come into the school. Enrollment is, we already had expected that enrollment was going to be just a little bit lower in the day school. We have a large size 8th grade graduating. We have a slightly smaller kindergarten coming in, but we also have new kindergarten interests. So we're pretty comfortable with where things are going. We haven't had, in any of the programs actually, we haven't had anyone call and say, we're not coming next year. We have had some new requests for some tuition assistance, and we expect that there'll be more of those, but we haven't had people dropping and saying they're not going to be coming to our school. Enrollment is happening right now in our after school program, and their numbers are looking pretty steady as well. So all the programs feel like they're quite viable, and enrollment is good.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Judy, two quick questions for you. One has to do with, you've mentioned to me in the past about school groups that have been a major, the impact you're having on school children when they come to the museum. Talk a little bit about what you're hearing and the challenges with that, potentially. And number two, is somebody asked the question, is somebody recording what's happening with the pandemic in the Jewish community? I know the other day we asked you, is there information about what happened in 1918 with the Spanish flu? And you said there's no information. So can you talk about those two things?
Sure, I'll answer the second one first. We actually have a hotline. You can call, it's on our website, and it will prompt you. The prompts are on our website, but we want you, do it. Please call our hotline and just follow the prompts and answer the questions about what you are experiencing during COVID. So that we're trying to capture through this program on our website, and then the oral histories that we're doing now, we're also going to capture it. So that's one thing. In terms of school groups, it's really challenging. I seem to be the kind of director that is planning for the worst, hoping for the best. What do I know? I know nothing, but I would imagine that we will not have any groups, any school groups in the museum until fall of 2021, right? I just think there are so many issues facing schools once they are actually back in school. So we are, we're seeing how virtual tours can work. I think this afternoon, Amanda, our lead educator, was in a classroom. She's zooming into classrooms fairly regularly now, and this might be the way of the future. The advantages, I hate to use that word because virtual is nothing like actually coming through the doors of the museum, but we're also realizing that this is an opportunity to reach rural Oregon in ways we haven't. And I don't want to say that right now that's happened, but if indeed next year we are challenged to bring kids into the museum, we will take that opportunity and make sure that we reach all 4 quarters of the state.
Okay, thank you, Judy.
Yeah.
And check out the website so you do share what's going on.
Please do.
This is a
Yeah.
question for everybody on the panel. So I'll kind of go one by one in the same order that you spoke in, okay? So if you can remember this. And whenever they say it's not about the money, it's about the money. So some questions came in about money. And as you're aware, the community has raised about $785,000 towards a crisis campaign. Grants are being made to Jewish organizations in town to help support their needs and interests. But the 2 questions that came up is, number one is, are there other major resources of funding that you've been able to tap? For example, the Paycheck Protection Program from the CARES Act, which I think everybody on the screen is going to answer yes to. And secondly, about just contingency planning for the long term. If this is lingering on, as Judy said, we may not have school groups till 2021. What happens if we're back in the situation again, or we stay in this situation for a longer period of time? So Michelle, I think you were first, so I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mark. So yes, BB Camp has received the PPP loan from the SBA. In addition to that, Harold Grinspoon, such a wonderful man, committed $10 million to 99 camps. We are one of those 99 camps. It's a matching grant, and we are eligible to receive $82,000 from him if we raise the money to be able to match it. It's a 2-to-1. We have to raise $2 to every one of his $1 grant. And in addition to that, there are, as you know, Mark may share with you a little bit, there is $80 million worth of major philanthropists who've come together for the entire nation's Jewish community. And that money might disperse to all of us, we all hope. So we hope that will come out. Contingency plans, that's a great question. And I honestly cannot tell you that we've got an answer for that for the long run yet. You know, as I'm sure all of us, we're thinking about a wide variety of models and scenarios that may have to come to be depending on what happens. Especially with camping, you know, we've got our 3 camps, our overnight camp and our 2-day camp programs, which are still our primary product of what we provide for the community, along with all the other stuff we do as well. But, you know, it's just going to depend on what comes this, you know, with the American Camp Association guidelines and resources, along with the CDC.
Great, thank you, Michelle. Let me turn to David.
Yeah, unfortunately, we are not one of the folks that have received, as of yet, the PPP, but I found out today that our application is at the SBA. So we're making progress and at least having it reviewed. We did receive funding through the Federation and Oregon Community Jewish Foundation as well. That enabled us to stand up our emergency assistance program immediately. And that's enabling us to both have a staff person and also provide the emergency assistance as we speak. Part of the funding we received as well enabled us to maintain our staffing in the counseling department. So we have full staffing there that was maintained. And as we go forward, we're also doing our own fundraising as we speak right now. As we go forward, in terms of contingency planning, the message I've given to my staff is that we need to take advantage of the expertise that we've built now in the virtual world and look to expand upon that. And as an example, through our counseling department, we're looking to expand our counseling department by offering virtual counseling. Our belief being that there are a number of folks out in the community who may be hesitant to come into counseling for a variety of reasons. They don't want to go into a counseling office, where they might be more comfortable through a virtual means to receive counseling. So we're going to begin to look at the expertise that we have developed, begin to capitalize it, and figure out how best to market virtual counseling going into the future. That's one example in terms of a contingency plan going forward that we're seriously considering.
Great. Thank you, David. And let's hope the SBA gets back to you really quickly.
Let's hope so.
Our fingers crossed. Kimberly?
Okay, so Cedars-Sinai Park, in terms of other forms of funding, we were part of the second tranche of the SBA loan approval, and our documents are being prepared as we speak. So we're that gives us a great measure of short-term relief in our hearts right now. We were also part of the Federation gift. We're very grateful for that. There is the Medicare first and second tranche, which we receive based on previous year utilization. And we've received both tranches of those funds. We also have applied through the FCC to improve our telehealth. Our medical director has donated 2 iPads, and she sees the predominance of residents on the nursing home side, but we're looking to expand our telehealth at this point, and we'll see if we're successful in doing that. And then the Pioneer Network, which is the person-centered care network, just launched an opportunity for us to receive or to apply for a grant for the life enrichment component of technology to add iPads, and we're going to be applying for that grant as well. We're getting that together as we speak. And in terms of contingency planning and projections for the future, long-term care is one of those, we're one of those industries that we're not sure if we've all bottomed out yet. I'm keeping in very close contact with my esteemed colleagues from previous organizations, and together, you know, we're talking about, and we are actually putting together 2-week projections depending on what is happening with the hospitals. And as I think you all know, and I'm not sure if I would be one of those people that would be willing to do that on May 1st, surgeries that the elective surgeries are going to be reopened at the hospital. We have not really seen our censuses grow over the last week. We're projecting out 2 weeks from now to see maybe that's the bottom. We just don't know. So our projections are on an ongoing rolling basis, as our budgets, if those of us like myself, Cedars-Sinai Park, whose fiscal year ends June 30, we've revised and re-revised our budgets and census projections, and it's going to be an ongoing discussion for, I believe, in terms of projections, the next 3 to 6 months.
Well, Kimberly, thank you. All right, Steve?
Thanks, Mark. So there's a number of things that we're doing. We've been focused up to this point really on looking at what's happening through June 30th. And we, as I mentioned earlier, have been really blessed with tremendous support from our members and our donors. We've applied for emergency funding from the Oregon Community Foundation. We will be applying for emergency funding from the fund that the Federation and Foundation put together locally. We did receive a payroll protection program forgivable loan. And so with that combination of resources, we feel like we're in a reasonable place through the end of our fiscal year, which is June 30th. We do have some reserves, not lots, but enough to help a little bit now. And when we reopen, we know that we're going to need some resources up front to reopen. And we don't know when that will be. We're hoping it will be at some point during the month of June, at least to some degree. Beyond June 30th, we're starting to look at a variety of different possibilities. We're working on our annual budget for the 2021 fiscal year, and that is going to be, there will probably be several budgets that are based on different assumptions related to reopening or potential additional closures that could happen in the summer or the fall or the winter of 2020. We're also looking at, if necessary, the possibility that we might not be able to maintain our full staff at full compensation beyond the end of June, depending upon what we are and aren't able to do. And so we're aware of the fact, as our staff, that there could be the possibility of staff reductions in order for us to control our costs. And then we're also looking at other ways of saving. I mentioned earlier this collaboration of JCCs around the West Coast, and all of us are doing a lot of online programming. And right now it's all happening independently, but we're starting to talk about if we can collaborate on offering virtual camp programs or other types of, whether it's family programs, fitness programs, and so on, if there's a way for us, at least in the short term, to streamline and to collaborate and to share resources that help all of us cut our costs a little bit.
I think we timed out. Oh, I apologize. Judy, do you want to, if people can hear us, do you want to just go ahead and answer the question that we've all been discussing about contingency plans? Yes, sorry,
Sure,
it was
we
Mark.
lost
I
Mark.
got bumped out. I
there.
apologize. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I can do this really quickly. You know, it's just really gratifying. Our funders have been generous, and they've also been flexible, and that's really been so important to us. We've heard from a number of funders right off the bat that if we needed to recharacterize grants to help us with emergency needs, we can do that. And of course, with that comes, you know, the opportunity to have some cash on hand, which is good, but it also loses an opportunity to do the project the grant was meant for. So we've been very, very cautious about doing that. We've really actually preserved our grant funds. And as I said at the beginning, we're continuing to write grants for projects. We did get the PPP loan. That has been fantastic. Our board made sure that we used the PPP loan for protecting staff. So our staff is intact through June 30th, which is fantastic. And we, you know, similar, I think, to all of us, the PPP loan secured our financial position through June 30th, and we're all really looking ahead. I'm going into a finance committee directly after this meeting. We're also looking at budget. We are, I think our budget process is going to be not looking at a 12-month budget, but chunks of budget. So I think we're, you know, we had a budget, obviously. We had a FY 2021 budget. We're rethinking that. We're probably going to go quarterly, really thinking about what our budget will be like going forward. We're okay. And thanks to all of you, we're actually okay. So thank you.
Thank you. I don't know, I actually got bumped off of my internet, but Meryl, I don't know if you have anything to share about PJA?
Sure, just quickly, we also we're very grateful to get a PPP loan, and that is allowing us to pay all of our faculty and staff to June 30th. We intend to start the school year and collect tuition, and that from all of our programs, hopefully, and that will help us maintain our program, obviously. And we also, should we need, and we hope not to need, but we have reserves, and we have a very smart and thoughtful and generous board who will help guide us through this this time. So I think we're okay.
Okay seems to be the operative term for many, and understand. So let me just turn it over to Lauren Goldstein, the chair of the board of the Federation, who has been a tremendous partner and a great leader in helping this community get through. Lauren, you want to share any final?
I think my biggest observation throughout this entire process is just the strength that has been gathered, both from a support perspective, from a financial perspective, when the entire Jewish community has come together. And I've said this many times, but when we come together, great things happen. And so I just want to thank all of you who have participated in this panel. And there's been several others who've been part of this collaborative process, which ultimately has allowed us to do a better, bolder job of scoping the entire needs of the community, providing for them in a lot of different fashions, both with support emotionally, financial support, entertainment, and silver linings with big Shabbats and all the programming that you've all spoken to. So I guess I'm just coming from a place of thanks and gratitude, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of others, but I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Well, I don't think so, and I think we're out of time. So we just want to say thank you to our panelists for all that you did, but we're grateful for the work that you and your teams are doing on a daily basis. And to everybody who was on the call, we're grateful for your time. Next week, 4:00 p.m., you'll get a notice tomorrow. United States Senator Jeff Merkley will be joining us, and we look forward to a very informative conversation with him. All right, thank you.